Hey, Class 1A, this is Captain Yeet here for you from the My Hero Academia Season 6 episode review. This is going to be Season 6, Episode 13, titled Final Performance. So, let's get into it. So, this episode starts off with a recap of basically the last scene of last episode is how this episode starts off. Then we get the opening, and then we then we get basically the exact same scene from last episode near the ending when Mr. Compress was complaining about how nobody in the League of Villains had really done what they really wanted to, and they all got caught and beat up by the villains. And then we get to a flashback to where I think this was like right before the whole Villain Academia arc started to happen. They were in like, well, this was like his own part in the manga. Remember, people were mad about the anime last season because what we get right here, there was like it was like a 2 or 3 chapters of just this. Then we got into the My Villain Academia arc, and they didn't really put that in the anime last season. They put like one scene, and that was it. Now we're getting more of it here. So I don't know why they split it up so much, but I guess it kind of works out with Mr. Compressor getting choked out by Best Genius with all the binding wraps and everything. He's starting to remember some stuff. Anyway, in this flashback, it shows that they're really down on their money, the League of Villains, and he also mentions about how nobody really asked about his past, but he really did like to be with the League of Villains. Even though they were just a bunch of misfits, everybody had their own ideas and goals. They were just a very discombobulated group that you never think could ever work together, but it works, and he really liked to be with the League of Villains. Anyway, they're in the forest one day, and they find this random house. And inside of this house is a bunch of, basically, it's a whole cult of people that hate heteromorphs. So people like Shoji, from Class 1A, or Koda, or I'm pointing at Deku, but or Koda, or in this case, since in the League of Villains, there, Spinner. They hate those kind of people, and it's a cult that like kills them and go after them. Anyway, they kill everybody. Well, they kill all the cult people there so they can take that house. And then the very next scene is they have another type of house, but it's still worn down. They still barely have any money. Mr. Compress cracks a joke about how if they were able to rekindle their relationship with the Hosaikai, so the Overhaul group, they'll be eating sushi right now. And then obviously Shigaraki like, don't be dumb. I'm just joking. And then Mr. Compress, he's in his original outfit. I like his original outfit, and he has his original mask on during the war, and he has his original outfit on in this flashback. He has a different mask on. But when Mr. Compress was first introduced, I like his original outfit, like that big like coat. I don't know what you call that. It's not like a coat. I think. Well, I'm gonna say coat. That big coat he had on in his original mask design, because his mask design changes each time we see him. I like that original design for him. The hat, the coat, and his original design. Each design for the mask. I mean, it gets somewhat cool, but sometimes lame. And in this original War right here now, and in My Hero One Justice 2, the fighting game, they have him in just basically it's his outfit underneath the coat. He just has that on. I like him better when he has the coat on. But anyway, it cuts over to them in the worn down place, just trying to figure out what the next move is. Shigaraki says the next move is just to wait right now, and we'll just see what happens. Dabi walks into the house, and it's kind of funny because he goes, "What? I knew you guys would just be sitting around doing nothing. Am I the only one out there working hard to go find new members?" Twice is like, you don't find any new members. You just burnt them all. Every time you find somebody, you just burn them to a crisp. You never brought one person back here. Name one. It's not my fault, nobody, brother. It's just a bunch of trash out there. Then we cut the Spinner. Well, we pan over the Spinner. And Spinner, he starts yelling and getting mad at Shigaraki because he says the reason that he even joined the League of Villains was because of Stain. And Shigaraki's like, what? And he says, yeah, when I lived in like a backwater town, and they hated heteromorphs like me. So I was all alone in my own little part of the town because no one wanted to be around me. And if I come out, they'll chase me or they'll try to hurt me. So I was like all alone my whole life. Until one day I'm watching TV and I see the news. And I see the news of Stain's last fight back in season 2 when he fought Deku, Todoroki, and Ida. And he's referring to when Stain was yelling at everybody to come to him because he could really see Stain's ideals. Not like specifically about the heroes and the money and stuff, but how he was trying to change the world all by himself. And that really inspired Spinner to try to do something about the world and how people hate heteromorphs. So he stood up, he got the outfit on he got now, and that's why he joined the League of Villains. Because in the news it was saying that Stain joined the League of Villains. Obviously we know that wasn't true, but in the news it was saying that. So Spinner was like, oh, he's in the League of Villains? I'll join the League of Villains. But now obviously Stain's not in the League of Villains. They're in this little rundown house doing nothing for who knows how long they were in there. He just wants to know, what is Shigaraki's plan? We're supposed to have a destiny. We're supposed to be doing something with our lives, doing something to do some sort of cause with this group, and we're not doing anything. What is your answer, Shigaraki? And he grabs him by the collar. What are we doing here? What is your move? Do you even have a plan? And Shigaraki just looks at him, and we cut away from the flashback. So we don't get to see Shigaraki's answer in this flashback we get in this episode. We just cut away back to real time with Mr. Compressed, Shigaraki, and everybody being like choked out by all the binding wraps that Best Jeanist has on them. Now, Mr. Compressed, that man is pretty cool. I remember reading this chapter in the manga and I reviewed it too. That man has a willpower. So, like I said, everybody's bound up in all the binding metal cloth. Well, not metal cloth, the binding string stuff that Best Jeanist is using to like restrain them, and he's like choking them out. So before Mr. Compressed passes out, he moves his hand to the side, taps his side, and compresses into a marble, a huge chunk of his flesh. A huge, like, there's a giant hole right here, and because a huge chunk of his flesh comes out, the binding wraps get loosened, and he's able to get all the way out. Obviously, Best Jeanist is surprised that he actually did that, because that's pretty fatal. A huge chunk of your flesh, you get yanked out. That's pretty hardcore. Then he runs over to Shigaraki and Spinner, compresses them into marbles, and he starts to run up. Now, obviously, Best Jeanist sees this happening, so he uses his quirk on his clothes, because that's how his original quirk works. On any type of fabric, he can like manipulate. So he starts to like make his fabric really tight. He goes, I see you're using your quirk. That's a smart idea, but my hand is right in the right position to, boom. And he just starts to compress his flesh in different parts of his body to get his clothes off. He goes, goodbye, costume. Yeah. Just all over his body. He just keeps, he doesn't get completely naked. But he does start to like just lob off big chunk of his, he starts to lob off big chunk of his flesh all over his body to get out of the binding, to get out of the binding what's a good word for it? To get out of the binding manipulation that Best Jeanist is doing to his clothes. That's the best way to put it. To get out of it. And he also gets spected too. And obviously him doing that constantly, he's coughing up more and more blood. And because that's huge chunk of your flesh all over your body, that's not good to just lob off like that. That's not too good to lob off. Then we get a flashback. And in this flashback, we learn that there was a guy, basically sort of like, there was a guy in the past that was basically sort of like Stain. I don't remember this in the manga, so maybe this is just something Horikoshi forgot to put in the manga with Mr. Compressed backstory. He didn't get time to, or maybe he was going to put this during the My Villain Academia arc, because that arc was cut short. That arc was supposed to be a lot longer, but I heard that sales in Japan were going down low during the My Villain Academia arc. I guess Japanese really didn't like how it was only focusing on the villains, so that's why he cut it short and went back to the heroes. So that kind of sucks. So I was always like, man, Spinner didn't get to have a big fight. He did Mr. Compressed. Maybe they were supposed to. Maybe this backstory was supposed to be in there. But who knows? Anyway, in this backstory, we find out that long ago, there was a guy sort of like Stain back in the day. Now, he didn't kill heroes, but he did go after heroes that only did hero work for the money. He stole from them, robbed from them, and give it to the poor. So, sort of like Stain, but, the big difference is he's just stealing the money from them. He's not killing them or like paralyzing them. He's not doing that, but he's just stealing the money and stuff from them. And his name is, I gotta look back at the subtitle because I try to remember it, but it kept getting me. His name is Oji Harima, Harima, or the first name is OJI, then the last name Harima, Oji Harimi. His name is Oji Harimi. And we find out that this guy is Mr. Compressed. Mr. Compressed is his great-grandson. Or his great-grandson. Yeah, he's his great-grandson. So this was like way in the past before almost anybody was born, really. Well, besides Awful One, But if there's anybody from the main cast, yeah, it's not really there too. Then after we get that flashback of him, we cut back to real time. And in real time, it's Todoroki and Dabi fighting. I really like this scene because we get to see Todoroki. He goes Jet Fire Fist. No, he goes Jet Fire, Jet Burn. Wait, my bad. Todoroki says Jet Fire, Jet Burn. And then Dabi goes, no, Fire Fist. And then they clash. But then Dabi's fire just overwhelms Todoroki and he gets flown back. And then Mr. Compress goes, Dabi. And Dabi flies over to Mr. Compress. And Mr. Compress compresses him into a marble too. Because he was like, well, because Dabi was going to keep fighting. But then Dabi was like, well, you're no match for me. And this isn't getting any fun anymore. And besides, Endeavor, he's knocked out already. And so I can't really talk to him anymore. I'll come back. Don't die on me. And he flies over to Mr. Compress and he gets compressed into a ball too. Anyway, here was the cool scene of them classic. And this is OG Omori, but it's Todoroki's blocking it really. Here's a cool scene of them classic. It's kind of bright so you can't see it, but as you can tell, Dabi just overwhelmed him. Dabi overwhelmed Todoroki. He couldn't do too much. He couldn't do too much. Anyway, after he compresses Dabi, Mr. Compress takes off his mask and we actually get to see his face, and he says that this is his final performance. He's gonna show everybody how to do a grand outro, and we actually get to see his face when he's saying all this. And his face, it looks pretty cool. Now we always got to see his mouth and his eyes because whenever he took off his mask, but the mask still covered like his nose and everything, so you never really got like a good look at his face. But we do get to get a good look here. And this is what Mr. Compress looks like with his face fully revealed, which was very interesting. He doesn't look too bad. He doesn't look too bad. And I never knew if we ever got a confirmation if he can use his quirk in his robotic arm. I will say no, right? Because I never saw that. We always saw him shoot his marbles that he compressed out of his fingers in a robotic arm, but we never seen him touch anything with his robotic arm in a compressed, because he obviously had to use his regular hand to compress stuff, which, yeah, that's a drawback since he doesn't have an arm anymore. But hey, what is he gonna do? What are you gonna do? And then right after that, we do get the eye catcher for this episode, and it's Spinner and Mr. Compress. Here's Spinner, and then right after that, we get Mr. Compress, which looks pretty cool too. Like I said, he's not in his regular outfit. He's in his, like, that outfit right there. Which kind of sucks because I like his regular outfit more, but hey, it's whatever. Now, we cut over to Burnin, and we don't see this in the manga, but this is very sad. I felt really bad. So we cut back over to Burnin's group that's still fighting all those Nomu that came out of the laboratory. So that worm Nomu that came up behind Burnin was going to eat her, and not Dabi, Mario punched. It's still active. So Burnin and his other guy are still fighting that Nomu. Now, this one guy has a drill that he uses to fight. Now, the worm Nomu comes over to the drill guy in a class, but then the worm Nomu backs up, grows bigger, and eats him. And Burnin's like, no! And then we cut inside of the mouth of the Nomu, and the drill guy's still alive. He goes, okay. So he cranks up his drill speed, goes right through the Nomu, but then the Nomu clinches and kills him. And he's like, stops. You just see the drill coming out of the Nomu. And then the Nomu and the drill guy fall over. And obviously Burnin's crying because her teammate just died in front of her, and she gets mad, grabs some fire from her hair, and just throws it because there's like a ton of more Nomu around her fighting. So she just starts yelling, screaming, takes more fire, and starts fighting. And then we cut back over to the battlefield. I'm like, jeez, that was not in the manga. At least I don't remember that being in the manga, and that was pretty wild. I mean, that was kind of sad. Anyway. We cut over to Deku, and we hear the first user, All For One's brother, wake Deku up. And he wakes up and he's looking around like, whoa, what happened? I must have passed out. Where's Todoroki? Dabi's blast must have knocked me out. Where's Todoroki? He looks to the side, and Todoroki's right beside him, like clenching his shoulder. He goes, okay, that's good. But I feel a sharp pain in my head. What is this? I felt it right before Gangster Market got back up and Endeavor knocked him out. This must be the fourth user's quirk, Danger Sense. As soon as he said that, I remember last episode, I just flat out said, Deku use Danger Sense, yada yada. And I realized, like, oh, they didn't reveal that yet in the anime. I kind of spoiled it, but thank goodness they revealed it the very next episode because, I'm glad no comments like, what's Danger Sense? I'm glad I got no comments about that. That would have been pretty bad. Okay. Anyway. Mario, he comes up and punches Mr. Compress in the stomach, and Mr. Compress starts to fade in and out because he's already heavily damaged, and that punch really hurt him, so he's starting to pass out. And then he reveals that Dabi and Spectic, their marbles are inside of Spinner's little scarf. And Spinner is trying to wake Shigaraki up because he uncompressed them. And Mario's coming in. Mario's coming in hot. So he's like trying to wake Shigaraki up quickly. But then he looks inside of Shigaraki's jacket and he sees a burnt up, charred up hand that he always wears. We get a flashback to last season about how he mentioned about how every time he wears the hands, he feels sick to his stomach. But he also feels somewhat calmness around him. That's very strange. He goes, I don't know if this is going to work, but Shigaraki, you need to wake up. He puts the hand on Shigaraki's face. A few seconds go by. Mario's getting closer and closer. Then his eyes open. Shigaraki gets up. And then more of those like cracked lines start to form all over his body. But as we turn out, it's not really Shigaraki. Now, Shigaraki / All For One does a huge EMP blast like he did at the beginning of the war. And this EMP blast makes all the Nomu that's fighting all those random heroes and burning come towards him. Now, obviously, Todoroki and everybody has to, like, stop these Nomus from grabbing Shigaraki. So they try to jump Shigaraki / All For One. But then All For One / Shigaraki makes a shield and blow them all back. And then Spinner, he starts to yell at Shigaraki. He's like, he's like, yo, what are you doing? We can't just leave right now. Toga, she's still out there and she's supposed to be coming to us right now. Mr. Compress is heavily damaged and he can't move. And Maki is not going anywhere. We just can't leave everybody. Watch your tongue. And he calls him by his real name. And Spinner's like, whoa, you don't talk to me. When do you call me by? You're not Shigaraki. Like, what are you? We can't just leave our teammates? Yes, we can. Shigaraki got taken out of his castle. Well, it's All For One took over Shigaraki's body. This is All For One talking. He goes, Shigaraki got taken out of his tube early, so his regeneration ability wasn't up to par. That's why all these heroes, Endeavor and Deku, were able to overwhelm him and he get defeated. He has to learn some consequences for his actions. Now let's go. No dilly-dallying. And a ton of Nomu come and grab All For One / Shigaraki. And this is what it looks like. Now, we get two cool scenes. One, we get to see a side view of Shigaraki, and it's just All For One's face. When we get the side view of Shigaraki, we see All For One's face, which is pretty cool. And we also see another cool scene where he's standing up, and you see all those cracks over his body, but we get a better look at it later on. We get a way better look at it later on. Well, actually, this looks pretty good, too. There was a later scene where all the nobles grab him, we get a front view, but this side view is still pretty good, so I'll show you guys this. I'll show you guys the front view too, but this side view is still pretty good of Shigaraki of all the cracks on his body, because his body is still not, it's still not good, it's still heavily damaged, and even All For One says that. He was like, yeah, this body, it needs some time to rest to get fully matured, since he got taken out of his pod early, so we gotta go. We can't fight, we're retreating. We are bouncing. We are leaving right now. Anyway, a ton of Nomu grabs Shigaraki / All For One and starts to run away. Deku's actually able to not fully get up, but he's using Black Whip Frumpy style on his mouth to propel himself forward and float. And he gets pretty close to Shigaraki and even has Black Whip on Shigaraki. And Shigaraki is telling him that we'll meet again one day. I like to fight you again. And then Deku goes, you better shut up, All For One. He goes, how trivial. Does another big EMP blast, blows Deku back. He starts to fade in and out. And then Deku just starts to think about all the people that Shigaraki has killed within this day during the war. All the people he has hurt and injured. He's like, I can never forgive you. But then he remembers when they were inside the Vestige world. When we were inside the Vestige world, and All For One was trying to take control of you, I saw your face. You looked like someone, like you were crying out for help. You looked like you needed help. You needed a hero. And he just, like, obviously Deku was, like, really conflicted. Like, he saw in his face he needed some help. He felt like he just needed a way out from All For One. But then at the same time, he's like, Shigaraki has killed and hurt so many people. How can he forgive someone? How can he even help somebody like that? But then as a hero, he knows, like, oh, man, but he looks like he needs some help. This man looks like he needs some help. So he doesn't know what to do. And then the last scene of this episode is just silence. You just hear music playing. and we just cut over all over the battlefield. Everybody passed out, everybody's hurt, everybody can't move a muscle, and then we get the credits, which was a pretty nice way to end the episode. Just music, we can see everybody laid on the floor after this heavily long and fought battle. The war has ended. And then we get the credits. So this was pretty good. This is the end of the war arc. Next episode and on, we're going to get the recovery and everything. Obviously, I read the manga, so I know it's some good stuff. I can't wait to see it animated. I know it's some good stuff coming. And also, I think we get the new opening next episode. I saw the new opening, and I think it's next episode or episode after that we get the new opening. Some good stuff. I was surprised what they showed in the opening because I didn't think they were gonna get to that in the anime this season, and they are getting to that good stuff. So hey, I mean, this is only episode 13. The season are normally either 24 to 25 episodes. So yeah, they're gonna get to that. They're gonna get to everything I'm thinking about since I realized, like, wait, we're only on episode 13 and the war is done. Yeah, there's a good chunk left. So we're going to get to a lot of good stuff. So we'll stay in this tour. So, like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you all later. I thank you all for watching. I thank you all out there for being wonderful human beings. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. All right. Yeah.